Target is 94, Bravo, 65, 20 low. Everyone.
Everybody, and welcome to our show, Spiritual Street Talk with Alethea Jacob. I'm Alethea, and I'm so glad that you are joining us this week. Wanted to start off, before you did anything else, is to just take a moment to send some love and prayers and energetic support to all our brothers and sisters and friends and family that are out in California and are dealing with the wildfire situation. I'm somebody who's a big believer in angels, and so I asked for ministering angels to watch over them, to guide over them, and to help them as much as possible. You know, please use whatever ways you have available to you to do the same. And talking about sending good energy and healing energy. Grizz is feeling a little under the weather tonight. He's kind of behind the scenes, so he'll be on the chat and all, so you can chat with him on that. So I'm going to be kind of running solo tonight, but trust he's behind here, making sure our ship stays afloat. All righty. So I wanted to actually start with telling y'all a little story. I had a really busy week this week, and some interesting things happened. And so I consider it a little bit of a lesson on some hand and some opportunities on others. And so the first thing that happened was kind of interesting, and I saw a UFO or a UAP. Hi, everybody. So it was Monday morning, and it was about 6:10 a.m. here up in Wisconsin. And I was letting my dog Flash out to go potty. And I look up into the eastern sky, and I see this long diagonal bar type of image, but it was huge, long diagonal shape, dark in color with lights all along. And it was almost like if it was like, imagine a giant yardstick there, and like at every inch there was a light, that was there, but you could see the gaps in between. And I watched it for a good couple minutes heading east and towards the Green Bay area. And I was like, wonder what that is, because it was so massive. Now, I don't live that far from the Green Bay airport, so I was thinking, okay, is there any way that was a plane? And I'm like, nah, I've seen planes before. I've never seen one that had this whole big bar of lights straight like that. And also it was flying on a diagonal. It was literally moving diagonally across the sky. So if it was a plane, obviously their wings are mostly this way. And even if they're tipped for a minute, they're going to correct themselves eventually. But I watched this thing for about 2 minutes, and the size of it, again, was just massive. I'm used to seeing planes in the sky and helicopters and drones and things. So I thought that was really kind of cool. And it just made me think a little bit more about some of the information I've seen on shows like Ancient Aliens or other TV shows that talk about the benevolent interdimensional beings that are around us and have always been around us to watch over us and help. And so I thought, I wouldn't be surprised, since there's so many natural disasters and wars and just unrest that's going on, and panic in a lot of people that's happening, and heartache that's happening all over. I wouldn't be surprised if there was more incidences of spottings of UAPs and UFOs, and just feeling that presence of them. And they're like, we're just kind of keeping an eye on things, flying on by. I actually turned on the local news to see if there was anything there, any story, that other people had called in, and no, they hadn't. And of course, I didn't call in either. And I had like a bird's eye view of the thing. So I'm like, yeah. And of course, I couldn't get up to my phone, which I had left in the bedroom, in time to get back and take a picture or video of it. So it was just for my eyes to behold and my energy to tell the tale now. But I thought it was really cool. And, I've seen UFOs at various times in my life. And usually when they're around, it's a time of tremendous growth and change and opportunity. So for me, it's not a scary thing that I know it is for some people that maybe have not had as positive interactions. But I just kind of wanted to share that, and keep your eyes peeled in the sky these days, guys. It could be early morning or late at night, or whenever it's dark enough where it's easy to see lights in the sky, and just, notice what you notice, because I really have a strong feeling that they're going to be making themselves more and more known as time goes on here. And I still feel pretty strongly that within the next couple of years, there's going to be a grand reveal of some sort, based on information that I've been hearing through various sources. So I wanted to start with that. And then, of course, lots of stories to tell, but I think I want to jump right into the reading for today. And so for those of you who are used to coming to the show, you know that I usually say a little prayer and ask Spirit to give us some messages. And that whenever you're listening to the message, whether you're tuned in live here tonight, or whether you are tuning in at a time after, there should be something. There should be something that you hear that would be uplifting, clarifying, comforting. You should get some sort of guidance from one of the messages that come through, because that's kind of the setup I have with Spirit. Like, okay, make sure that who's ever tuning in gets something, some nugget that they can take away. So the very first card I chose for today is gratitude. And gratitude is really about counting your blessings, saying thank you to the universe for any gifts, any wonderful blessings you've had. And just like with people, if you think about it, when people express gratitude for you, don't you want to do even more for them? Like when you feel truly appreciated and you enjoyed giving your gift and helping out, and you got that sense of gratitude back, it makes you want to help again and again. And you're like, oh, you like that? Oh, thanks. Great. What else can I do for you? So I believe that our angels and Spirit and the benevolent forces that are around us, the more that we really are grateful for what happens in our life, the more positive things can start to appear. Even I had a really little thing. I was going to see The Lion King at our Performing Arts Center in Appleton this past Sunday. And the weather was really nasty. The roads were a little icy. And so before I left, I just said a little prayer, and I asked for the angels to keep me safe on the road. And if possible, angel of parking, please find me a spot that's nice and close, because as you all know, I don't walk real well because I had been hit by that car years ago. And, I walk with a cane, and it's a little dicey when the roads are icy, right? So I just had said that before I left, and I got down there totally fine. It's about maybe a 25-minute ride. Took a little bit longer. And so I got there, and just as I pulled in, there was a spot literally across the street, one little street I had to cross to get to the main entrance to the Performing Arts Center. And so I was just like, thank you so much. It was the littlest thing, right? but it wasn't a little thing to me. It was exactly what I needed in that moment. And I always have that expectation of, okay, if I ask for help, help's going to come in some form or fashion. And if it doesn't for some reason, okay, I'll pay attention to, was there something I had to learn or whatnot? But when it does show up, when I have that expectation fulfilled, I am so grateful. My heart just expands and I say it out loud. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Right. And so, yeah, it's manifesting. But the gratitude helps us in that manifesting. We have to hold the expectation of what it is that we want to manifest. And then when it shows up, showing gratitude is a way to just kind of grease the wheels of all the flow and momentum of the good things that are happening in your life. And that works both on relationships, with colleagues at work, with your loved ones, with your family, with your friends, and with the spirits and guides that work with us and help us every day. So gratitude, big, important part of what's going on. The next card that came was energy work. And then when energy work is about healing and realizing that, at our essence, we are energy. And so our body has an energy field around it. It's known as our aura, right? And then what's really interesting is that we can use our intention, our hands, our heart, our mind to project healing energy to other people. And whether they're in the same room as us or across the world, like I know tonight, hi guys, I see there's somebody from New Zealand, Australia area. I see there's somebody from the UK. I mean, look, we have this world audience here, and yet we can all still focus and send healing energy, like tonight to Grizz. And like tomorrow, hopefully you'll send some for me because I'm going to have a procedure done on my knees. And so y'all, if you can say some prayers and send some good mojo energy to us, whatever works for you, right? You don't have to. And that's the beautiful thing about energy. We don't have to have the same belief system of religion or even which specific type of energy. The only rule is it has to be positive energy, an intention for healing and a best possible outcome for the person, right? You can do it however you want, whether you burn a candle, whether you work with incense, whether you just say, hold on to crystals or chime chimes or chant or say prayers or visualize the person or the part of the anatomy that's being worked on. Whatever way you feel, you can send an intention and open your heart and send good energy to somebody. We can truly touch each other and help each other, even across the world from each other. So that's energy work. And then the last card that I picked from the Oracle decks is righteousness. And this kind of ties in a lot, and you'll see in a few minutes when I share some of the other stories that happened this week. It's all about standing up for what you believe in and what is right and true for you, and be willing to pay the price for that righteousness and what is required, right? So you'll see the price I paid in a minute because I'll tell you the story. But those three cards really felt important tonight, having that sense of gratitude, understanding that we can use energy work to help heal ourselves and others, both locally and at a distance, and this sense of righteousness of standing up for what you believe in and being willing to pay the price for that conviction. So then I picked our 3 tarot cards for the evening. And usually it's a past, present, future kind of vibe, but it's within a short framework this time. I didn't want to go back like 6 months. It's like, all right, what are the threads that are happening recently in the past? What's happening now? And what's about to happen? Those are the directions that I was getting. So the first card was the World. And the World card reminds us that we have the ability to manifest pretty much anything we want to experience or have. We are co-creators with our reality. As our thoughts flow, energy goes. Where we put our thoughts, where we put our attention, more things that are like that start to appear in our life, right? Where thoughts go, energy flows. As you think, so you are. We have to be aware of what we want and really stay focused on what we want. Too many people, if you ask them, oh, what would you want to be? Would you want to do? What do you just want in your life? So many people, the answer is, oh, I don't know. Or it's much easier, or they'll respond with, well, I don't want this and this and this. And same kind of guidance comes here of, if you're focused on what you don't want, you're going to get more of that, what you don't want. So it's important to figure out for yourself, what are some of the things that I really like? What do I want? And maybe you don't know, for example, you want a new job, but you don't necessarily know exactly what that job is going to be. So let's say that you write down all of the attributes and brainstorm about all the things that you like to do and you like in any kind of job that you might have had. So it might be, oh, I like working with people. I like having some autonomy. I like some responsibility and accountability for my own stuff. I like to work at my own pace. So you kind of you make that list. Then when you step back and you look at it, something will emerge for you that you're like, oh, that a job that has, or a career that has, or a position that has all of those kinds of attributes is this. Or if you don't know, you can hand that to the person that's closest to you, a friend or family member, and say, hey, when you read that list, is there any job that just pumps out, or any career that pops out into your mind of that, check most of those boxes? And maybe they can help you narrow it down. But if you sit there and say, well, I don't want to work in an office, and I don't want to work with animals, and I don't want to work with finances, and I don't want to work with details because I'm a big picture person. What's important there is you gave all those don'ts. Well, that's like trying to tell your dog, don't jump. Okay. Well, you don't want the dog to jump. Well, what do you want it to do? You want your dog to go place on a place board, or go to its beddy, or sit or come next to you, right? Like when the doorbell rings, instead of barking and jumping all over the person that's coming, you instead would say to that person or to that dog, go place, or go sit, or come by me. You'd say what you want the dog to do, because you can't tell the dog what not to do, right? Because nots are not comprehended. Just like we don't tell our kids anymore, don't spill the milk. Why? Because the child has to make a mental representation of what does spilling the milk look like. Oh, next thing you know, it's all over the place, right? What we do tell them is walk carefully, hold the glass with two hands. So they're making the picture for what you want to have happen, not what you don't want. The other thing is, like, if I told you right now, okay, y'all, whatever you do, do not think of the color blue. Don't do it. Don't you think of blue. All right. Now, how many different shades of blue already popped in your head? Right? Blue jean blue, sky blue, navy blue, right? So if I really don't want you to think about blue, I got to give you something else to think about. So I might say, hey, if we're just dealing with colors and something very simple, I might say, hey, think of red, think of fire engine red, or Ferrari red, or cherry red. And you haven't thought about blue until I just mentioned it again, right? So if you could think of something even that simplistic, one of the things that would make a difference for us is to constantly think about what we do want out there, because it's a training, right? Because you can't do a knot. You can't do that. Don't think of blue. I can encourage you to think of something else, but by the very virtue of me telling you don't do that thing, I forced you to have to think about that thing, right? So where our thoughts go, energy flows. It's an axiom that's been in metaphysics forever, right? So thinking about what you want to manifest, thinking about what you want in the world is important. The next card, sorry, that was a really long explanation for the world card. It sent me around the world there. So the next card is the 9 of Cups reversed. And this is a card, because it's reversed, it's actually better. Because it's when it's right side up, it's about overindulgence and overdoing things and losing control. And so this card says it's really all about balance, right? You can drink, but don't drink to excess. You can work, but don't be a workaholic. You can get good sleep, but don't sleep your life away, right? So it's like all these things that can be good in moderation. You want to make sure that you're doing them in moderation and not going crazy, taking them to an excess, right? Using a credit card sometimes is fine, right? You develop credit, it's good to have it, but having a huge debt to credit cards, not so fine, right? Because then now you're stuck in a financial rabbit hole or quicksand. And so things that can be okay in small moderation, when you start to get it out of control, it can really divert you away from what you want in the world. And then the last card that it chose was the Page of Rods reversed. And what that represents is a reminder and a caution to us about being accountable for listening to our intuition and understanding that we receive promptings, and whether you call it your conscience, your guidance system, your intuition, your gut feelings, whatever you want to call it, that guidance, that intuition that is part of our spiritual birthright, it's important for us to pay attention to that. And when we don't, kind of circles back to we have to pay the consequences. So the last thing to share in that line of things is I cracked my book open. And once again, my book, the latest book that's out there on Amazon, is A Portal to Potential, The Muse of Monroe. This is all channeled information that came through. It's very uplifting. A lot of it is thought-provoking on how to figure out what you want, how to make sure you're living your life's purpose, how to have better relationships and more joy in your life. You can find it on Amazon. It's $10, and all proceeds go to the Monroe Institute, which is a consciousness institute in Faber, Virginia, an amazing place that I highly recommend. And if somebody wants to know more about that offline, I'm happy to chat with you about it or email back and forth about it. Anyway, the page I cracked open to was a inspired writing called Impact. So I'm going to read that to you now. Impact. Water seeks its own level, like your soul searches for reunion with the one of its being. Water can be peaceful and calm, life-giving, sustaining, and refreshing. Yet water can also be raging and damaging to the environment, causing harm along the way. You too are like the water and can impact your world in benevolent or malevolent ways, depending on what you choose. If you choose nothing consciously, then, like a stagnant pool of water, your purpose lies unfulfilled. Unlike water, you have the choice and ability to affect the world around you and thus fulfill the measure of your creation. Be what and who you were born to be. Do what your soul longs to express. By this being and doing, you will find the peace and love the celestial worlds sing as the beacon to guide your soul home, so you may join in the collective song of the cosmos, unfolding and expanding the universe into being. So what hits me about this, and again, I didn't write these consciously, they were channeled. So when I read them, they always impact me as well. But what jumped out at me today is the line that says, you too are like the water and can impact your world in benevolent or malevolent ways, depending on what you choose, right? What are we choosing these days? Back to what are we focusing on? So responsibility and accountability in everything we do. That would be a way to approach our lives, right? Too often we're looking for somebody to blame. We're looking for, even if we're on the receiving end of something where we feel like we're a victim, right? Or it's just something horrible has happened to us or a loved one. We're like, wow, that's, that might be heavy. Well, it's like, okay, so this now what? How do we get ourselves back on track? How do we stop looking for and asking questions about, who to blame and, misery loves company and all this kind of stuff that the world teaches us, and raise our vibration and say, no, you know what? I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to blame other people. What did I do? Or what could I have done differently? And I'm going to give you guys an example of something here. So back in the end of August, I started getting spirit prompting me that I should move money from that's in my individual retirement account. It's in a IRA that's in mutual funds and in the market, and I have a financial advisor and all that kind of stuff, right? So I kept getting the feeling that I wanted to move whatever money was in there into something more fixed. So it wasn't at the risk of the ups and downs of the market, because I'm at an age where I'm starting to take money from my retirement account to live on. And so I needed to know it was going to be stable. So I emailed my financial guy at the end of August, and I said, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing. I definitely want to move it over before the election, because I kind of had a feeling things might be a little wonky afterwards and just volatile in general. And I really didn't want the ups and downs, right? I just wanted something steady that I can rely on and know I could plan for and say, okay, this is what I have. This is how long it's going to last. I know I'm good, right? So he investigated during September, early October. We came up with a plan, and I said, okay, move it over. That'll be great. So I didn't hear anything else from him, and I just assumed it had been done. Assuming, remember what that does, right? Did it to me. All right. So in December, I got the statement for November, and I saw it was still showing that my money was in this mutual fund, had not been moved over to the money market and the fixed income account. So I call him in December and I say, hey, what happened? He said, oh, well, the market was rising, and so I didn't want to move it over. And I'm like, okay, but I want you to move it over because I need to know it's here and it's fine. Okay, I'll take care of it. So I didn't follow up again. I get December statement here in January. He had not moved it over, and I lost $6,000 in that account. It went down because the markets went down. So I was like, oh, for the love of God. So I email him. I'm like, what the heck happened here? I thought you were going to move it over. I asked you to move it over. I told you to move it over. You said you were going to move it over. Why didn't you move it over? And he said, oh, well, the markets were going. I didn't realize they were going to go back down, and whatever, right? I don't blame him. I could say, hey, you were my financial advisor. I gave you an instruction. You told me you were going to do it. You didn't do it. Shame on you, right? I could have made a big fuss, but no, you know what? It's my fault. Spirit told me. And, part of the problem was I told the financial advisor that I had a prompting from Spirit. I had the sense that I wanted, excuse me a second. I had this sense that things were going to get a little volatile. And I just, for myself and my own peace of mind, I didn't want to be part of that roller coaster ride. And so me telling him that was kind of a gut feeling or an intuitive feeling or whatever, I didn't follow up with it on him. So I should have known that whenever a financial person makes a change, or before they can make a change in your account, they have to send you, whether it's online, like through DocuSign, or whether it's through the mail, if it's old school, something that actually says, here's what we're going to do, and you approve, right? For the most part, unless you have a special kind of account. So anyway, I knew that it was going to be a volatile time. I didn't follow up when I didn't see the email or hear the email the next day or the next week. I just got busy. I got distracted. I got wrapped up in the day-to-day life, right? That we always get wrapped up in. So that's part of what I'm talking about. I have the choice. We all have the choice. When things like that happen, do we blame somebody else? Oh, he didn't do what I told him. Oh, shame on him. Like, I'm one of, 1,000 clients he has, right? It just slipped his mind. It wasn't an intentional, let me screw her and not do what she asked. I'm sure it just slipped his mind. But if I'm being accountable and responsible for my own life and situation, when I reach out to somebody else and say, hey, can you help me? Can you do this? It's up to me also to make sure that they follow through. Especially when it comes to something that is important to me. So I wanted to share that little story because it was a real important lesson for me. Now, $6,000, that's a big chunk of money. That's basically 3 months of my income. I'm like, dang, I hate the fact that that's lost, but it could have been worse, right? If I didn't pay attention, who knows how many more months would have gone by, how much more could I have lost? I don't know. So and then I said, okay, what can we do about this, right? So this, now what? I would love if you could all adopt that as your mantra when shit happens in your life and you're like, instead of looking for somebody to blame, focus your energy and attention on asking the questions that'll get you out of that and get you back on track to the direction you want to be. So I asked myself, so this, now what? Okay. And then I asked him, what do we do about this? Okay. So we're going to lock into a money market for a little while. Is there any way to recoup that loss? And he basically said, well, we can watch. And when the market gets to a certain point and it's down 10 or 15%, because they see big swings that happen. And there is a lot of volatility these days. He said, at that point, once it's down, he said, you can re-enter and you can move some of your money back from that money market into the mutual funds again. And so you get to then catch the wave, if you catch it right, going back up, and you'll make your money back, maybe. So, that's something for me to think about. But there's also something for me to think about of peace of mind versus potential gain. It's a question for interactions in everything that we're doing with people, right? It's like, is it worth fighting the battle? Is it worth winning that battle if you're going to lose that war? I remember my grandmother having this wonderful saying, that she'd rather be happy than right. She's like, she was a peacemaker. And so I know that we have the ability to focus on the positive outcomes, to take responsibility, to see the signs along the way, and to learn from whatever's there, and just always ask ourselves that question. So this, now what? The relationship didn't work out. Okay, what do I want? What's next? Or the healing hasn't happened yet. Right. I talked about I'm having that next procedure on my knees tomorrow. And the first round helped some, and I'm hoping this is going to help. But I'm trying to be proactive and saying, all right, this is important to me. I want to be able to walk again and stand again and be able to dance again, maybe someday. And I used to be an avid hiker, and I used to travel all over the world and go up to these sacred sites. And I was like a mountain goat, I had mountain goat legs I used to tease. I would balance up on the rocks and up on these crazy things. And it's like, wow, part of me would love to do that again. I don't know if that's realistic, However, I'm going to keep trying, say, okay, if this works, great. What's next? How can I make it even better? If it doesn't work to the extent that I hoped, well, what else can I do and add to it? Right. So if I'm constantly asking the questions that will lead me to a better and better outcome, I'm also programming myself that I'm an opportunity options kind of person. I think we talked about the Herkimer diamonds before. I've mined these crystals for years. And one of the things I love about the Herkimers is that they're multifaceted and double terminated. And their nickname is the Optimism Stone. And the reason I love them so much is that it just reminds me of the attitude that we should have in life, that wherever we are, there's always different windows, doors, opportunities, ways to look at things. Some things serve us more than others. And it's really important to stay focused and guard our mental health and make sure that we're moving in the right direction and not letting our minds drag us down some rabbit hole where we get stuck in quicksand. Okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit about those things. The next thing I wanted to share is another story that happened this week. And this was a positive learning lesson, but also how worldly stuff was kind of coming, pressing in on me at the same time. And I realized it and I stopped myself. So one of the gifts that I have, that many of us have, is animal communication. And so there's I think it's a national app that's called PetWorks. And so I listed myself as somebody who does animal communication on that site. And I've had a few people reach out to me for, a lost pet or just to, answer a quick question here and there. But I had somebody who actually lives about maybe a half hour away from me reach out and ask me to come to their house and do a house call because they had 4 cats that they wanted me to tune into and give them information about. So in this day and age, I mean, it's been a long time since I've done a house call. I've done house parties from, referrals or friends of friends or that sort of thing. But to have somebody just out of the public call me up and say, hey, come to my house and read here. I said yes, but as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, what if this is just some crazy person who hates psychics and they're just luring me there to kill me, right? I mean, it only popped into my mind for half a second, but I was like, what do I do with that? So I said, well, because it wasn't like a warning from spirit. And the interactions I had with the person online were very, positive and they felt good. But I also said, you know what? Let me get rid of that negative feeling by just sending a quick text to a friend of mine saying, hey, by the way, I'm going to this place. Here's the address. And here's the name of the person. I'm going there to do a house call. If I should disappear and don't show back up in the next day or so, send the cavalry up that way, and, obviously nothing happened. That was bad. But that little teeny bit of like just worldly, like I felt like I was channeling the worst of my mother, like, oh, people can be, bad out there. You have to be careful or, be worried if you go. No. What's my belief system? My belief system is if somebody finds me and asks me for help, it's because I can help them and it's the right match. I don't believe that spirit sets us up to be killed like in some murder mystery plot, right? Or some, bad, docudrama. I truly believe that if our heart and our intention is positive and we're there to help and somebody asks for help, we're going to be able to help them. All right. So as I'm driving to the place, and just so you know, we can communicate with animals just the same way that we can communicate with people at a distance. It's like telepathy. And anybody that has pets, cats or dogs, although it does apply to other types as well, but cats and dogs in particular, we communicate with them through pictures. Yes, we have words that we've trained them that this word means this thing, so when you say, go potty, they run out and they go pop a squat, or, you tell, shake a sound of the food in the bowl and they come running because they know it's dinner time, right? We communicate with them and they communicate with us by pictures that they project into our minds. So I know sometimes that my dog has lost one of his favorite toys under the couch. Why? Because I see a picture that pops in my mind of that ball under the couch. Or I get a picture of the back door being locked because my dog Flash knows how to open doors and he lets himself out for potty if the door is unlocked. And all of a sudden I'll get an image in my brain of, oh, I left the door locked. He's trying to get out. Sure enough, he's there by the back door. And I'm like, okay, I open it up for him. So they make pictures for us, just like they read the pictures of our mind. So our dog would know the difference of, are we taking them to the dog park or are we taking them to the vet? When we say, hey, come to the car, let's go for a ride. Sometimes the dog will go like, woohoo, they'll come running out. and, be happy because they see that picture of dog park or grandma's house or the doggy daycare that they love. And then when we're making the picture in our mind of the vet, guess what? The dog is all of a sudden not so keen on going for a ride. How is that? What has that dog picked up from our energy, right? We're making pictures. It understands. Anyway, so I just wanted to put that out there. So be playful with that, with your dogs or cats if you have them, or other pets. So as I'm driving, I got a feeling of an image of a big orange tomcat. And I got the name Chuck, or like a ch sound, Chuck. And again, names I don't usually get that wrapped up with, but I got the sense that there was this big orange tomcat that had passed in spirit and was there kind of ruling the roost for this household of cats. And so I was like, all right. So I kind of put that impression off to the side. And then as I'm driving some more, I got another impression of a cat that had kind of a rough fur. And I'm like, oh, that cat needs more omega-3 oils. And the best way to do that would be tuna fish in the oil instead of in the water. And, drizzling that oil on the cat's food, and that would help get its fur, get a better thing. So those were kind of impressions that I got. So when I got there and I met the people, and they were lovely, lovely people, very nice. I sat down, and before they brought out the first cat for me to tune into, I said, I wanted to share with you what I picked up right off the bat. And so I shared them about the tomcat, and they said, oh my God, my husband had a big orange tomcat whose name was Cheeto. I'm like, Chuck, Cheeto. Okay, I got a CH. I was like, a little victory for me. But I picked up that there was this orange cat spirit that was around in the house that was kind of interacting with the cats. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then sure enough, one of the cats came out, and their fur was definitely needing some of those oils. So I thought, all right, that's fun. But why was that important? It was important both for me, just to know, like, okay, I'm here to help them. Just trust yourself in the process. Because it's been a while since I've done animal communication live like that in somebody's home. It's a little higher stakes, when you're like there, you driven there. And it also put their mind at ease, like, oh, she really knows what she's doing because she got this information before she even walked into the house. So that was important. So anyway, as we went on, we got some really important information. And one of the kitties was an older kitty, and 18 years old. And they had a vet that had come and had talked about euthanizing the cat. And actually, the main reason they wanted me there was to find out if the cat was ready to leave. No pressure, right? So I'm like, all right, bring out the little kitty. So, there's the little kitty, and I look at her, and I could tell that she was, the words that came out of my mouth, oh my God, she's a kitten trapped in an old lady's body, old kitty's body. And I said, and her energy field, you could tell she was half there and half gone. It was the most interesting thing. And then I thought, it was like how people can be in hospice, where they're lucid and they're there some of the time. And then, that they've kind of pierced the veil, and it's like they're starting to make the transition process, because they'll talk about, oh, I just had a conversation with Uncle Tom. And you're like, oh, honey, Uncle Tom, died 3 years ago, and that's her brother. And you're like, no, I talked to him. He was here, right? Well, this kitty has been looking off and interacting with a spirit cat that they were noticing once in a while. And I was like, oh, that's probably Cheeto, that orange tomcat. And they said, oh, that makes total sense, because those two cats were buds and friends. And so, of course, the cat Cheeto would come to be with that family and that kitty to help make her feel more comfortable about crossing over the Rainbow Bridge into their version of heaven. So that to me was very interesting, that the animals have that same parallel that people do when they're getting close to making the transition. They have like 1 foot in this world and 1 foot in the other. And they kind of consciousness wise and energy field wise go back and forth between the two places. So I thought that was really fascinating. And then the next thing I got when I asked the kitty, like, are you getting ready to leave? the kitty said, and the image that came to my head was, it's not imminent, but it's soon, and that she would give you signs. And how important it is as a cat owner or a dog owner, a pet owner, that we take the responsibility when it comes towards end of life, that we are willing to do the right thing for them, because our animals, especially cats and dogs, their souls are able to differentiate away from group consciousness of cat, dog, horse, whatnot, to that individual spirit that we have a relationship with. And they come to us to be a teacher, a healer, a guide, a companion, a combination of those things. And they don't want to leave us once we've given them that gift. So this is a way for us to kind of pay them back. And their lifespans are shorter than ours, which sucks, and it's like ripping out a piece of our heart to let go of this little source of unconditional love in our life. But it's so important that we look for the signs. And I basically told them, you'll see the signs. She'll let you know when it's close, but you're the one who's going to have to make the decision and help her leave before it gets too late, before she winds up in such a crisis of pain or emergency that her passing is not graceful and peaceful and surrounded by love, right? So I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit, because that's also about the accountability and responsibility aspect when we decide to take a pet into our life and into our home. Yeah. So, all right. So I see that there's some questions here. So just give me a quick second to kind of roll back through the So I see a question right now. Have I ever not been able to read a person? I would say in the 42 years that I've been reading, there's probably been 3. And the main reason was because they were more closed and didn't want to be read, partly. It was sort of like it was the boyfriend of the woman who dragged him to the fair, that sort of thing. Once there was a lady that she went to the fair and she basically she went from reader to reader to reader to reader and was saying, oh, no, you didn't read me. No, you got it wrong. And all of us we compared notes later, had come up with the exact same thing. So she was saying we didn't read her, but we actually had. But no, I don't think so. Honestly, if somebody wants to be read, I'm not a voyeur. I don't peek, right? Unless you've asked me to tune into your energy, I don't look, right? So there's not that worry like, oh my God, what are you seeing all the time? Because also if that was on all the time, it would be exhausting. And quite frankly, it's none of my business of what's going on unless you ask for help and you want me to tune in, then I'm happy to look and see what comes through. And again, it's been my belief system and my reality that if somebody asked for help and they found me, the reason they found me versus a different person is because I can help them, right? Spirit doesn't waste our time or our money. We want to be able to help each other. All right. So let me just kind of go back here through, see if anything jumps out. If you had a question, it's really helpful if you put it in caps, because then when I go back through the feed here on the side, I can see what the questions were. So feel free to put a new one on there now if I haven't talked about something that was there. Let's see. I'm still looking. Yeah. Somebody was talking about how money doesn't make you happy, but it helps. It's not the end of anything, not the end of everything. There's always someone worse off. Well, you know what? Let's talk about that a tiny bit there. So yeah, it's really a lot about perspective, guys. And I will tell you, these fires in California and tuning in to see some of the coverage on it has been heart-wrenching. I used to live in Los Angeles. I've been to and through and had clients and friends in all those areas. And I checked in with as many as I was still in touch with. And most of them were still fine. Scared, as you can imagine, but they all knew somebody who lost everything to a person. They were okay. They still knew other people that were in tremendous pain who had lost everything. And so when these kinds of situations happen, and I know we talked about Hurricane Helene on an earlier broadcast, because I had a friend who had just moved into a brand new house and that got flooded and she lost everything, right? And this was somebody I knew, and there was a GoFundMe for her and all this kind of stuff, right? When you hear about these disasters, and there's disasters going on all the time, whether it's the war in the Middle East, the war in the Ukraine, whether it's natural disasters from tsunamis and earthquakes like are going on in Japan right now, or the fires in California, or the ice storms. There's always something going on to help put it in perspective. So when you think about complaining, like, hello, back a little earlier in the show, right? I talked about I lost $6,000 because I didn't follow through on something. I'm not blaming. I'm not complaining. I'm not going, oh, poor me. I still have a roof over my head, plenty of food to eat. I have a purpose that I'm able to fulfill by doing these podcasts and sharing messages from spirit, and hopefully giving y'all something to think about that might comfort, uplift, give you guidance or inspiration, and help you find more purpose in your life, or more joy in your life, or more meaning in your life, right? That's part of what I do, what I love to do. And so sitting down and complaining because, I can't walk very well. I got hit by a car years ago and my knees are a mess, and I'm, have to have different things done to try to fix that. Yeah, I can look at what I had before and what I have now and go, oh, poor me, and pity, pity, pity. No, why would I do that? I'm alive. I have purpose. I have my needs basically met. I'm better than the average bear when it comes to, and most of us in America are better than the average bear when you look around the world and the planet about how much suffering is out there and how much challenge is out there. And there's actual whole groupings of people in small towns and villages that don't have a water source. They have to haul water for washing and cooking and cleaning. And you're like, oh my gosh, right? I just have to turn a tap on my faucet. And I bitch when, oops, I have to call the plumber because there's a leak, right? So perspective, what are we focusing on? What's important to us? It should be about being the full measure of the creation we were meant to be. It should be shining our light and trying to be that positive force, that positive impact, especially for our brothers and sisters that are suffering, who are going through a hard time. For us to find our purpose. And through doing that purpose, we resonate a joyfulness, a positivity. We're able to do the right things and have that legacy of, I did the best I could. I touched as many people's lives for the positive. And at the end of the day, I feel good. I did what I could, right? That's all anybody ever asks of us. Do the best you can with what you've got. And if you can get really good at this world card of manifesting, of healing and energy work, sending prayer, sending energy, helping to create the peace that you want to have, create the world, be the example of what you want to see more and more in the world. If more and more people have that shared mindset, that shared consciousness, gather their energies, it will help in bigger and better ways. So it's okay to feel sorry for yourself when shitty things happen, when bad things blindside you, when you're disappointed by a person or an event of something that happened or didn't happen, of a betrayal. Like there's things that we have to endure that are happening in our lives to teach us lessons. But it doesn't mean we have to be stuck there. Be real in the moment. Have the reaction. Do whatever you need to do to get through it. But then let it go and move on and get right back to asking that question. So this, now what? How do I get back on track? How do I get the help I need if I need help? How can I offer aid or help if I have some to offer? I know I reached out to several people out there. I said, look, I have a spare bedroom. If it gets to that point where you just need a safe place and you need to get the hell out of California, come to Wisconsin. You are welcome here, right? I can't offer a lot, but I can help. So it's really important for us to ask ourselves, how can we get out of our own patterns, our own situation, and be that beacon on the hill, be that light for other people, help ease other people's pain, inject more kindness into our days and into our lives, right? These are the things that make a difference. Because at the end of the day, does it matter how much money is in my stinking account? No. I'm not going to, when I'm on my deathbed someday, I'm not going to be going, damn, I wish I had 3 more zeros at the end of that account. Why? No, I'm going to be thinking about the love, the relationships I had, the people I helped and who helped me, the experiences that I saw and places I went, and the beauty that I experienced, the awe when I would go to a sacred site, the moments of nature that were just so perfect, right? The little things, watching kittens at play and puppies at play and little kids squealing as they're going down the water slide for the first time. Little things that just kind of bring us back to that innocence of our soul and our spirit before we got bogged down with all the responsibilities of about being an adult in our life, right? We have choices all the time. We can make the decision of what's most important to us. And that's part of being self-aware. It's also part of tuning into spirit to get that guidance of, okay, if I'm not happy in my life, or if I feel stuck, or if I keep hitting roadblock after roadblock or wall after wall, what can I do to make a difference? What can I shift? Well, the first thing we have to shift is looking at what's our priority. I had a client once, I think I've talked about it before. He was saying how, his most important thing in life was his family. And that's why he was working so hard. And I said to him, yeah, but because you're working so hard, you're never with your family. There has to be a balance. Yes, be the good provider, but also be there. Be there for their games, be there for their important moments, be there to talk to them and interact with them, right? Don't just be the paycheck. Yeah, that's important as a provider. Yep, got to have a roof over the head and food to eat and clothes to wear, sure. But sometimes we drive ourselves so much beyond that and take ourselves away from the very thing that is most important to us, which is time with our loved ones. So again, at the end of the day, it's not about the money and the things we have. It's going to be about the legacy of impact. What did we create? What lives, whose lives did we impact in a positive way? What little things that we did, the seeds that we planted that bore fruit, that helped feed a whole town, right? These are the things to think about, guys. Righteousness, shining your light, using and developing your gifts and your abilities, being creative. The more joyful and peaceful you are, the less the craziness in the world can impact you. So instead of being one of many who get wrapped up into the drama and trauma and the crazy whirlwind sucking the life out of you and the joy out of you, you're like, no, you guys can spin all you want. I know my truth, that I know I am a spirit child of the universe. I am part of this. I am part of this system. I have choice. I can manifest. My thoughts help co-create my reality. So I'm going to really watch my thoughts. I'm going to every day ask the question, what do I need to do to move closer to what I want, to becoming the person I want to become, that I'm just not there yet? And if we do that, I promise you, not only will you have a more contented life and spirit, it'll spread to your family, to your friends, to your community. You can be that beacon to remind people of, hey, there's another way that it can be. So make that choice. And I guarantee you, you will have peace and you will not get so sucked up into the craziness. And when you do have a need, help will come in unexpected and beautiful ways. And blessings will flow because you are willing to be a blessing to others. On that note, guys, God, the hour went by so fast again. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you showing up and listening. It's encouraging for me. And you're letting me live my soul's purpose. You know, I was born to be a teacher. I was born to bring information through and share, and hopefully, you know, make you think a little differently and maybe confirm some things you're already thinking, but hearing it from a stranger, it's like, oh yeah, maybe I should look at this or try this. I encourage you to be curious. I encourage you to be the best possible version of you can be, and be loving and forgiving of yourself. We're not perfect. We're going to screw up sometimes. We're going to have those oops moments where like, oh, why wasn't I paying attention? It's okay. Learn from it. Move on. Love yourself. Love others. Move on. Forgive yourself. Forgive others. Move on. Holding on to negative energy doesn't help at all. It's like holding on to weights when you're trying to swim. Just let them go and get to shore. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you again next week. For those of you who are so inclined, I believe Grizz has another show at 9 p.m. tonight. Feel free to tune in there. And in the meantime, be your best selves, be kind, be loving, and have a beautiful day. Thanks, y'all. Love you. See you next week.